2008, but a lifelong paranormal experiencer and UFO sightings experiences within my family. So I've been with it since I was a teen also, and triggered by Whitley Strieber's book, Transformation. But a lot of things with UFOs, it's always being reinvented. And can I just take a couple minutes to read this?
Yep.
And without my glasses. This is a report from over 50 years ago, and I just came across it a few months ago. I acquired in the fall additions to my UFO library, and so now I have approximately 300 UFO books. I have about 300 magazines, UFO magazines from 1978 to 2010. I have all of the MUFON journals from 73 to 92, and a UFO clipping service from 89 to 2006. This was in there. This is about an incident in 1973, and this email was from 25 years ago. And it's by Stan Gordon, and it's referencing an incident in 1973 in Pennsylvania. And so in 1998, and this is a connection between UFOs and Bigfoot, and that's why I pulled it, from over 50 years ago. 25 years ago, this is Stan Gordon speaking, I was directing the Westmoreland County UFO study group based in Greensburg. I had started this volunteer research group in 1970, and I had established a good relationship with law enforcement and the news media in western Pennsylvania. Then in 1973, a major UFO wave broke out across the country, and hundreds of sightings were being reported in the Keystone State. Then, to make the situation even stranger, sightings of Bigfoot-like creatures began to be reported over a multi-county area in both western and eastern Pennsylvania. These reports continued for several months, then began to slow down. Interestingly, the media and police agencies, for the most part, took the reports seriously, and our UFO hotline number was literally deluged with reports and questions. While some police agencies were investigating some incidents, they were commonly referring the reports to our group to investigate, and in some cases, our teams were assisting the agency involved. I had to set up a communication center in my home, and we were radio dispatching investigators to the sites as reports were coming in. We were conducting this research around our regular jobs, but in many cases we had teams on site within minutes or hours after a UFO or creature sighting was reported. But it was one case which occurred that made myself and my associates aware that there were some aspects of the apparent UFO and Bigfoot mystery that are even stranger than were first apparent. As I have shared since this event, most unexplained UFO sightings are not reported with Bigfoot encounters, and most sightings of Bigfoot have no association with UFO reports. But here in Pennsylvania, we investigated a few cases where both were seen at the same time. In other cases, a UFO would be reported in an area, and soon Bigfoot reports would come from that area or vice versa. What association there exists between the two anomalies, if any, remains open to speculation. I must stress these cases are historically rare, but some are well documented. It was my position as an investigator to gather the data and present the information, not hide the facts that they were uncovered because it would cause controversy from both the cryptozoologists and ufologists who have had their theories as to what these phenomena represent. And so this is like all from over 50 years ago. Briefly, on the night of October 25th, 1973, my UFO hotline was active with UFO reports from around the state. About 10:30 p.m. that evening, I received a call from State Trooper from the Uniontown Barracks concerning an incident which he had just returned from investigating. One of those involved was put on the phone for me to interview. At about 9 p.m., about 15 people observed a very large red spherical. Thank you. Object, hovering, however you go, I'm Canadian. A boat. Low in the sky, which began to descend towards a pasture. The witness and two boys proceeded up the field and observed a white dome-shaped object on the ground that illuminated the area and was making a loud whirring sound. It was estimated at about 100 feet in diameter. There were about they, meaning the boys, were about 250 feet from the object, which isn't far, and about 75 feet from a fence line. Walking along the fence line were two tall figures, 7 to 9 feet tall, covered with hair and arms hanging down past the knees and displaying glowing green eyes. The creatures were fired upon. First, tracers were shot overhead, then live ammo was used. The largest of the two creatures turned towards the other, almost touching it, and at the same time the object in the field disappeared and the sound stopped. The creatures slowly walked towards the woods. One boy had already ran home, the other two left the field, went to the farmhouse and moved the family members to a neighbor's home and called the state police. When the trooper arrived, he and the main witness went to the site, and where the object had landed, there was a glowing area that, according to the trooper, was about 150 feet in diameter. He said he could read a newspaper from the amount of light that it was emitting. The farm animals refused to go into the area. The witness we talked with has always stated that before they left the field, the largest of the two creatures was seen in the woods about 10 feet from them. And he shot at it and it struck the fence that stood between them. Later that night, our team arrived in the area, radiation levels normal, glowing area now gone, but animals still wouldn't go near the spot. Strange events began to occur during the early morning hours in this dark, secluded location. A farmhouse several hundred feet from us was seen by some in the party to suddenly light up like daylight for several seconds. A bull in the field and a dog seemed unconcerned about us and were looking into the woods. The main witness, a rather large individual, while being questioned, suddenly begins to growl, throwing his father and my assistant, George Lutz, towards the ground. The man ran into the field, growling like an animal and emitting screams, one of which was near inhuman. His own dog approaches him as to attack and then runs off whimpering. The man suddenly collapses onto the ground. Then two of my team members begin to complain that they are having trouble breathing. Suddenly the air is filled with a strong odor that can only best be described as rotten eggs. I'm almost done. The man, as he came out of what appeared to be an almost trance-like state, began talking about visions he saw about the end of the world. Not knowing what could happen next, we each helped each other back to our vehicles. It was apparent that professional help was required. In this case, an eminent psychiatrist, Bertholdi Schwartz, was contacted. Dr. Schwartz traveled to Pennsylvania at his own expense and interviewed all of those involved, including the eyewitness and state trooper. There is much more detail to this case, and I've spent years following the life of the principal involved. There were many paranormal events which reportedly occurred in the years following this episode, and many years later, in a follow-up interview, an MIB, in capital letters, Men in Black, event associated with this case was revealed. And that says for a more detailed account. So then it said for me, more detailed account in the case, see Dr. Schwartz's article in Berserk, a Flying Saucer Review, volume, blah, 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 blah. So that got me back into my box this morning of my MUFON journals, and I'll just share that because, and then I'll sit down forever. And I found, oh, it's in the back here, but I found an article in the 1974 MUFON journal about this specific incident But MUFON, before it was called the MUFON Journal, and I didn't know this because I haven't been in the box, these are from the 70s. But before it was called MUFON Journal, it was called Skylook. If anybody's been around forever. And so the article is written up here in 1974 in the MUFON Journal.
Cool.
So, yes.
Thanks for
Awesome.
sharing.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Judy. SUFON, I've been with SUFON since 2008. It's a meetup group in the Seattle area called Seattle UFO Network.
Are
Yeah,
there any people in here in the room today that came through the SUFON post?
right here, yeah. So, yeah,
Thanks.
so thank you.
Thank you.